let's go ahead and turn now to Saturday's game. Hey, did you know that college football teams actually play on Saturday? I had no idea. Now, when you look at the schedule for these three local teams, with NC State playing on Thursday, UNC playing on Saturday, Duke playing on Monday. So this is the one that kind of, if you are just a casual college football fan, UNC taking on South Carolina to start off the season, you probably have circled on your calendar on Saturday, because you have a number 21 North Carolina team that has a potential Heisman quarterback in Drake Maye. They're playing in the Mayo kickoff, however it's phrased. These opening week kickoff things, I never get the names of the actual Chick-fil-A bowls, well, all that kind of stuff. And then South Carolina was a team that was really knocking some folks off last year. They beat Tennessee. They beat Clemson. Spencer Rattler is a solid quarterback who was Heisman contender just a couple of years ago before he transferred to South Carolina, coming over from Oklahoma. So there, I think, is a lot of South Carolina is one of those teams that college football fans are like, interesting. I want to see what they can do.
But, I'm going to say this, Lewis. I'll say this for you. I'll say this for you. Spencer Rattler has been an enigma for South Carolina for as long as he's been there. That's the word I would use, because I don't think there's a ceiling. I also don't think there's a floor. And it's that consistency of when he was at Oklahoma, you had Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, and you had all these great quarterbacks back to back to back to back. You're expecting him to perform at that high level. I mean, to where he was expected to be the next guy, the next first round pick as a quarterback out of Oklahoma. He's proven the ability to play at a very, very high level. How disappointing it would be if you're a Tar Heels fan. You want to get back to a conference championship game. You want Drake Maye to potentially win the Heisman Trophy, to get knocked off in week one in prime time with College Game Day doing its pregame show on Saturday morning before it airs in prime time on Saturday night. The stage is set for both of these players. And naturally, we're going to look at the quarterbacks, Lewis. But that to me is whoever wins this game, we're going to be looking at them in a national spotlight, in a national limelight, based on how this game plays out. Rattler, Maye, the storyline's set there, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think that so this is one of those games that reminds me of 2015 UNC, right? That, for those that remember, that UNC football team went 11-1 that season. They rounded off 11 straight wins after week one. Their lone loss was to South Carolina in Bank of America Stadium. And they had a lot of turnovers, and there was not a lot of success. And that UNC team ended up playing really well as the season continued, with Marquise Williams, Mitch Trubisky getting in the mix a little bit. But this moment kind of reminds me of that a little bit, because it is a possible season-defining game. And you do not define, and it's such an oxymoron to even say that, you do not define your season in the first week. However, what you do is you set the national expectations a little bit. And it is going to be, if we want to go under the assumption that Drake Maye is doing all he can to win the Heisman this year, he's going to do whatever he can to help the football team. But if he plays really well, he could win the Heisman this year, right? You're competing against a guy in Caleb Williams in Southern California who has all the attention, has all the resources, is playing in the dying Pac-12, is playing in Los Angeles. Like, the attention is going to be on Caleb Williams. He is the presumed number one overall pick. He reminds you of Patrick Mahomes and all this stuff. Great. If you want to be in New York in December, UNC needs to win this game, and Drake Maye has to perform well. I think he will, but it's fascinating. I want to go back to Spencer Rattler here really quick for a second. It's kind of, because you talk about this almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type notion of Spencer Rattler. You look at the first few games of the year. And, he was new to South Carolina, still getting his feet under him. But against Georgia State, 227 yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions. Mm-hmm. Against Arkansas in a loss, 377 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6 sacks. Against Georgia, okay, that's Georgia. Okay, we'll give him some credit here. 118, 2 interceptions. Even against Charlotte, it was 56-20, but 187 yards. They didn't need him to play really well to win some of these games. And then even after that, at the end of September, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against South Carolina State. So he was struggling, not really playing his best in the first half of the season. And then when South Carolina goes on this run where they beat at the time, number 13 Kentucky team. They beat Texas A&M. They beat Tennessee, who was number 5, just coming off a loss against Georgia. They beat their arch rival Clemson in a shootout, 31-30, and it's this really high stakes game. He was playing really well. 6 touchdowns against Tennessee, 3 touchdowns against Vanderbilt. He was much more game manager, 14 of 19 against Kentucky. Like, he was playing much more to the expectations. My question is, which version of Spencer Rattler do we get? But I don't know.
Let me go there.
I've talked a lot, Mark. You continue.
No, you're good. You're good. I'll go to the defensive side of the ball, and I do want to finish on UNC's offense, but I'll go to the defensive side of the ball. Gene Chizik and company. I know you got Cedric Gray. We're excited about him. Can you show up and actually ball this year to where that onus doesn't fall on Drake Maye in the offense, right? So a year ago, you're giving up 31 points per game.
A lot.
That's 104th in college football. There's only 130 teams. You're giving up almost 450 yards a game defensively. That's 111th in college football. Again, it's only about 130 teams in the FBS, Lewis. You got to be better defensively. Otherwise, look, Drake Maye could ball out and put all the numbers up in the world. If you're not better defensively this season, he's not going to snip New York. The Heisman is a team award. No doubt you have to be prolific as an offensive player. But if North Carolina's defense is how it was a year ago, Drake Maye is not going to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation, even as a contender. I don't care what kind of season he has. That's just point blank, period, Lewis.
Yeah, and it's not fair, but that's what the Heisman is at this point. And it's interesting because from a defensive perspective, right, I feel like North Carolina and South Carolina are very similar. Where you look at South Carolina, right, in their losses last year, they gave up 44 points in their loss against Arkansas. They gave up 48 in their loss against Georgia. They gave up 38 in their loss against Florida. In the bowl game, they gave up 45 against Notre Dame. So South Carolina's defense also has a lot to prove. I think this is going to come down to, you're going to see which quarterback plays better, but which defense steps up and lives up to any kind of offseason expectations that they improved. Because that's what everyone around North Carolina, around Chapel Hill has been saying is, hey, this defense is going to get better. The defensive line looks really good. I think we're going to be getting more pressures. Some of the transfer secondary players that have come in look fantastic. You got depth at linebacker. Like that has been the talk around this UNC team in the offseason, is that their defense is going to be better. So that's something to see. And then the last thing, I know we talk about it a lot over these past couple of weeks, but it's still, as of we're recording this in the middle of the day on August 30th.
You're in my brain. You're in my brain.
Tez Walker. Like, what is the situation?
Make a decision. It's when we're recording this, it's Wednesday afternoon on August the 30th. Like, NCAA, whether it's yes or no, make a decision on the appeal.
And that's whether it's yes or no, because it should be yes, you are eligible. Like, we don't have time for me to step on my soapbox and tell you how the NCAA doesn't actually help.
We've talked about that in previous episodes.
We've talked about it a lot in previous episodes, but UNC needs to know one way or another. So, because right now, what Mac Brown said on Monday in his press conference, what Chip Lindsey said, the offensive coordinator for UNC, the new one, that he mentioned, is that they're having to kind of game plan for 2 different situations. One where Tez Walker plays, and one where Tez Walker does not play. And if Tez Walker does not play, then that's a little bit more of a kind of, a committee approach to this game, to the receiving core, right? You have guys like Nate McCollum who are coming in, sure, but also Kobe Paysor, other guys who have been there for a while, plus even like the running back and the tight end group getting involved. So it can be a bit more by committee, but the way they've approached this with Tez Walker specifically is they have said, be prepared to play, because you don't want to be in a situation, if you're Tez Walker or if you're UNC, where you haven't really incorporated him into the game plan, and then Saturday at 3 p.m. you find out, hey, the NCAA just gave us a call, you're good to go.
If we find out by that point, Lewis, like, I swear we're going to upload this podcast episode and we're going to find out a decision one way or another. And I know Colorado had an offensive lineman, and Deion Sanders was blasting the NCAA's decision. So it's like, if there are valid, good reasons for a player for there to be exceptions, you certainly hope, Tez Walker, that can be the case. Yeah. And I look at it beyond just the mental health portion of it. It's What about his future in his ability to try to become an NFL player?
Yeah.
You want to play with Drake Maye, the best of the best, versus whoever the Tar Heels quarterback will be in 2024 if he, in fact, has to wait. So you got that. You mentioned Chip Lindsey, too. The rapport that a quarterback has with a coordinator. I'm curious to see, is there any difference compared to what we had a year ago when you had a different OC with Drake Maye? Again, a lot of these questions will start to get answered come Saturday night.
Just like with NC State, we're going to learn a lot about that offense on Thursday against UConn. We're going to learn a lot about UNC and who they are as a team on Saturday against South Carolina.